Hello, conscious community at Reality Sandwich. Kyle here, our RS Conscious agent, back with another amazing Share Your Experience moment. I'm joined today by Alana. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, as always, I'd love if you could introduce yourself to our community, a little bit about who you are and what you do in the plant medicine, psychedelic realm.
Sure. So I am Inner Circle, which is an amazing mastermind group out of San Diego. I am their events director, their social media director, and team builder. So I also host masterminds. I am a 15-year entrepreneur, and I've been doing events, social media, and then also just about anything you can think of in the Eastern health industry, yoga, nutrition, energy work, even. I've been certified in all of it and teaching all over the world for the same amount of time. And plant medicine being folded into my life about 8 years ago consciously, game changer, total game changer. So it naturally, the industry gravitated towards me over the years, and I love it. So
As someone who studied Eastern philosophies and modalities and healing, how did you come into that space and get educate yourself? Were your parents all into this and raised you like that? How did you discover this journey?
sure. So my father, who was not as involved in my life from like, I'd say two forward, it was sort of here and there, but the time we spent together was very cool. He would show me things about yoga. I remember him doing 20-minute headstands. Like every week, he would just do it against the wall, and he would emphasize how important yoga was and is. So I ended up sort of begrudgingly going to a yoga class when I was 23. And I was in college and waiting tables to get myself through college, living on my own. Somebody asked me to go to a yoga class, and I said, all right. Like something in me said yes, even though I was tired, I didn't want to go. And that hot yoga class changed my life. It was a vinyasa flow. And the teacher suggested we go 3 days a week. And I was hooked because the first class, afterwards, I felt calmer than I'd ever felt before. And I realized that I had some anxiety symptoms that I wasn't even addressing. So that is what started the journey, and seeing how my body transformed. I had a knee that was pre-arthritic that completely healed within 3 months. I ran a marathon in Baltimore a year later. So from there, everything started to branch out, and I just started to follow what I loved to the degree that I became a business owner just 2 years later. And it was all surrounding my love of healing holistically and teaching others how to.
I'd love to explore that deeper. I think something we don't talk, we're talking about all these plant medicines, but there's something to the yoga, the let's call it sober physical, spiritual work that we can do that can really lead to some great healing modalities. Since your first yoga experience, how have you evolved the practice, and what were you finding as you did it more and more?
Sure. So about 3 years in of regular practice, 3 days or so a week, and I was going to the studio, and it was just such a cool vibe. Such a cool vibe. I saw so much of my local community there, and I met so many great people who were on the same journey. So the community was a big part of the propulsion forward at that stage. Then come India, where I dropped out of college. I didn't drop completely until I got there, and I was there for a while, but I put it on pause uh, because they had no holistic health courses aside from a one credit, which I aced, of course. But that was my passion, and I was just sort of bored with that. So I go to India with my ex boyfriend, who we were seeing at the time, and it was not what I expected, and so much more. So I got there, and I don't know, for any of you who have been to India, it's like, oh my gosh, totally different, totally different. I'd never been out of the country before, and I was looking for yoga everywhere. I thought I'd find it everywhere, and that wasn't the case. So we're near the Himalayas, and I noticed that I didn't need a teacher to do yoga. And I started doing it every day as opposed to 3 or 4 days a week. And I was doing it on my own. I was meditating double, and I was having all these realizations. I was really coming home to myself in India. How funny, I found my home practice in yoga in India with no teachers, aside from two who were very cool. They were like in guest houses. You had to like know somebody to practice with them. The one teacher's name was Krishna. And I just really dropped in with some really amazing sages there. And primarily, it was a journey back home to myself, doing my own thing. So, when anybody does mindfulness for an extended period of time on a daily basis, you get clear on what it is you love to do. Seriously, you get to know yourself, you get to unpack things like trauma things that have been there for a while and release that over time. And it all does start with guidance, right? But then your inner guidance takes over. And that is honestly how I opened up the journey to entrepreneurship and mindfulness on an ongoing basis and teaching, which has become my life. I love teaching about this stuff because I don't care who you are. If you practice any form of yoga and meditation, you're going to transform and it's going to be great.
That's beautiful. I think we're really lacking the mindfulness, gratitude, and these practices daily in a lot of people's lives. We're definitely in a conscious, I'd say dampening right now in terms of how everybody operates, and it's wonderful. You can take this and level us up one person at a time.
Well, yeah, and then talk about the digital age. How lucky and fortunate are we?
Mhm.
Because I realized with social media and events, which was the same time, right? I started to launch those things for myself and business owners to fuel that mission forward and teach to a wider audience without, having to go to California to teach an audience of 250. Think about a post on social media and the ones that go viral. You're teaching to 10,000, 20,000 people, some people a million, even 500 people. I think about that and it's amazing, right? So I've been teaching to a lot of people
Absolutely,
for a long time.
it's awesome community building. I'm
Yeah.
curious now how you went. You traveled to India. You got an education there, and how did you bring that back, and what did you take away, and then how did plant medicines slowly creep their way in?
Sure. So when I got back, I actually took a teacher training here on the East Coast, right? And it was awesome. The lady actually was doing her first one and she moved the dates so I could go to India. I was very torn because I wanted to do both equally. And what a gift that was. So I got my certification and I stopped waiting tables and I went full force into teaching. And I had support from the boyfriend at the time, which was wonderful as I grew my business. And it wasn't until after my first child was born that I discovered CBD, and it started to creep its way over to the East Coast when I was living back here. And from there, gosh, so that was 8 years ago. From there, I learned about the terpenes. I started selling it at festivals, and I would teach at festivals at the same time. And I talked to, oh my gosh, so many people at dispensaries, et cetera, that had these life changing experiences with all these major ailments, from anxiety to seizures, by using CBD, full spectrum, right? Even not full spectrum, which is, for those of you who don't know, full spectrum is just a hint of THC because it boosts the benefits of CBD and the receptors in the brain. So it's interesting to think about, we are actually wired to receive CBD. We have the CB1 and CB2 receptors in our brain. So again, talk to your doctor, your holistic doctor, whatever, before trying it if you haven't before. But that was the beginning of my love for cannabis. And plant medicine in general, I'd say that opened me up to being receptive to doing a peyote ceremony just a year later. Uh, and that was amazing. It was with a Mexican shaman, and it was about 40 people in this farm field overnight. And he had an assistant that would sage us every, gosh, it felt like every 30 minutes. Nobody slept. And from that experience layered in, I felt this like oneness that, and I've always felt that, but it was like enhanced. I felt my heart just open up. And I've only done that once. Again, I don't seek these things out. These things, honestly, they appear when they're meant to. And I suggest anybody, enter plant medicine that way. It's like you ask, if you're a person of faith, you can ask for guidance, go within, ask for guidance, and then wait for the answer until you're clear. That's still why I haven't done ayahuasca in a ceremonial setting, because it hasn't been time. And I don't care if it ever is. I just really also know that in meditation you can connect to the plant medicine spirits in essence without even taking it. So I know ayahuasca, and I know the plant medicine community might foo-foo that, but like I felt her big in Costa Rica. And that is the cool benefit of having mindfulness layered in to your plant medicine journey. Uh, from there, I ended up falling in love with cannabis in general. And it was after my second birth that I realized I had postpartum anxiety. And so I went and talked to a doctor and a nurse, and they got me my medical card and said it was a really great thing. It's better to be calm, right? Than be anxious when you're raising kids, and being, careful and mindful. But from there, I learned that, wow, cannabis has come a long way, right? I did not use it mindfully when I was younger, when I was like in my early 20s, late teens. And it also wasn't, medically developed at that time the way it is now. Now you can go in there and say what you have going on, and they have different blends of the terpenes that will help you if that's the path you want to go. And I'm not judging anybody, but I would much rather, and I always will, use plant medicine versus prescriptions, God willing, right? That's just my path, and it's been glorious. I noticed that it's helped with my openness out in social settings when I'm really busy, which I am. I'm a single mother of two, business owner. I have a house, right? Like it helps at night to just sit and be creative and paint and play music. Psilocybin microdosing has been this other amazing thing that I don't do often, but I again will feel it when it's time, and microdose and just boost of creativity forever. I don't know. It's like that one plant that is ever evolving in the experience with it when it's time.
Beautifully put. I'd like to go back to your first peyote experience. How were you called to that ceremony? What was the experience like, and what was the integration period like? Were you aware of the power of peyote? How did you get called to this ceremony? What were you looking for out of the medicine?
Sure. Gosh, so this was about, I think, 6 years ago when I did that. It was like 6 or 7 years ago, and I have a friend who does ayahuasca ceremonies all over the world. Amazing musician as well, and you know how that goes hand in hand if you've ever done ceremony. Music is huge. That's like such a big part of it. So he was in town and sent out a message about the Mexico. I think he was like the oldest shaman, at least in his words, that was in Mexico doing these, and he was here. And I was like, I don't know, very, very hesitant because I'd never done it before. But I was able to go, and there were like different things along the way that day that were just like, yes. My boyfriend watched my daughter. I was able to go, and it was all blessed, honestly. So it was intuitive, honestly. It was an intuitive go. So I get there, and there again are about 40 people. We've all got sleeping bags that are in a circle. We've got the fire in the circle, and we're introduced to the shaman and his assistant. And from there, some people have drums that they're hitting, bongos. Eventually, the music and the strings start to come in. And then the medicine starts to kick in, and some people are throwing up because you purge, you release the old energy, the stagnant energy. That's a part of it. I did not, but I felt like I might. And I only took a little bit, and they dose you a few times throughout the night, depending on what, your needs are. And it was very safe. My experience was just totally safe and held. and I trusted the guy that, brought me into it. So we had candles. They handed out candles with like the Guadalupe on it and the Jesus. And I had the baby Jesus on my candle. And I just remember laying there with my mates on either side who I got very close with in like a short amount of time. It was awesome. It was a lady and this like guy that were next to me. And I was just staring at that candle for a lot of it and just getting these like insights very much. And it wasn't as much visual as it was feeling, but there were, some visuals. It was very light for me. Some people were really in the throes of it. And I just remember there was a moment where they're saging us. They have you stand up so you can't go to sleep, which is irritating, in the moment. But then you get through it and you see why they do that. It's a sacred circle, and it's just part of the journey. So they had us all stand up and they're saging us off, and they're taking this rose that they dipped in water and they're like putting it on our third eye in different places where they sense is needed as they walk around in the circle. And my friend, who's the amazing musician, and about 5 other musicians get up. They have stand-up bass and they start singing medicine music. Oh my gosh. And the sun is rising, right? We're in this big farm field. And I felt the presence of the divine there. And I saw no separation. I actually visually in that moment saw the flower of life, and that continued for a little bit, but it was everywhere. Everything is connected, right? And that experience changed my life. From there, I started picking up the string instrument again after not playing it for a while. I had a ukulele, and I still do, and a guitar. I play them regularly now, and I sing regularly now on a daily basis because of that experience and because also of my background. My father, musician my whole life, amazing guitar player. They're all that way on that side of the family, which is awesome. But I had pushed that part of me aside because it reminded me of my father, and it was painful at the time. And that's something else that I was unpacking there. It was so great. And it gave me the gift of music again. And that, I would do it a million times over again to have that. Music has been so gratifying for me. It was like the next stage of what I've been doing in yoga and dance all those years, which I hadn't even talked about. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was a beautiful answer. I want to explore with you, the importance of music and ceremony, and yeah, how has it inspired your creativity and your practices now?
Sure. I wish I could call my friend in on this call because he's really steeped in it. And like, I know when I catch up with him, he like drops these like terms I don't even know in the ayahuasca community, which is funny. But in my own experience, seeing him play music that night and having the experience with music, many months later, years later, it's been a way to pour out emotions, right? While also lifting my frequency. Like I feel happier when I play music on a daily basis. And I know that in ceremony, it helps. Gosh, I think about even like biblical times, and I love theology. Like I'll dive into any theology that is, has good overtones. And they all have them. They all have some, and some, many, many, many. But back in the day in biblical times, the worship players, the music players, they were the medicine men. People would go to them and women to get healing. Like it was almost like bigger than the pastors. They would go to these musical magicians, right? And they would get healing for all sorts of ailments. And that is why I believe music is such a big part of ceremony anytime. It's healing and it lifts the frequency and it helps you release the baggage that you're carrying. And we all get there. Ever increasingly so releasing the baggage, right? Because we're here to experience experiences. We're here to let go of, I believe, ancestral stuff, right? You are paving the path to a better generation right now when you choose something good one day at a time, one moment at a time. And so music, again, is just a refinement of the energy, and it helps you stay on the path, clear, raise your frequency. It's fun, right? And music might not be your thing, but I promise everybody has something in them that's musical. Everyone, right? Plant medicine and music go hand in hand because life goes
Beautiful.
hand in hand with both. Yeah.
What was your post integration period like post that peyote ceremony? So you came out of that with your new insights and thoughts about how to move forward. What was it like coming back down from that, and now how did you reflect over the next few
Mm.
few weeks, months post that ceremony?
So you told me like, I don't know. I think about that integration period because there's so much there. I retrospectively, and I've talked about this before with friends, retrospectively, if I could change things around, I would have done it with like someone else who as a support system. I think about my support system at the time, and it's nothing compared to my community now, like trusted colleagues now, trusted family, trusted friends. And at the time, I was still working that out in myself. So the boyfriend at the time, the day later, he'd been asking me to borrow money for a wellness machine. It was a Tesla machine. And I won't say his name at all. Again, it's all good, bigger picture. But because I was so open that day later, after saying no, 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 no for months, uh, I said yes. And I loaned him a whole lot of money that he did not pay back. And we didn't end up staying together. So it's like I had this beautiful spiritual experience in the music, and all of that was opening up. And I had the contrast of that experience. And so, you know, hindsight's 2020. I wouldn't change a thing, but I learned so much about that. You got to be around trusted, like very trusted people who wouldn't take advantage of the open state. And ideally, you'd be in a like tropical setting, or if it's mountains for you, you're there and you have a couple weeks to integrate in nature, you know, quietness, music, journaling, all of that. I went right back into, digital nomad life,
Mhm.
working like, got 10 clients, and I'm teaching yoga at studios at the time, got my daughter. So so this is again why, and I haven't done plant medicine events personally. I haven't hosted them, but like the yoga and surf retreats that I've hosted, it's so incredible to see people integrate mindfulness over a week, 2 weeks. I mean, that is so essential to any journey mindfully.
Well put. Back to I'd love to hear more about these surf and yoga retreats. Did that spawn post this ceremony, or how did you come up with that, and what is your process?
Yeah, no, that was like 2011. I got certified after India. From there, my boyfriend at the time and I, we were like, we're going to move out of Maryland. And we were looking at different places in the US. And then we found Costa Rica. And we'd never been there before. So we took a trip. We fell in love with it. And then we went back and we moved there. And I sold everything. I've done this twice in my life. Sold everything, even my car. I had a Sebring convertible. I love that car. Not so great in the winters on the East Coast, but love that car. Got rid of everything. I went there and we ended up living in a cool town on the southern tip of the Nicoya Peninsula called Santa Teresa. And it's near awesome towns like Montezuma, Nosara, which is like a very popular spot. I personally like Santa Teresa because of the surf. It's like this warm water beach break that is endless. There's sets for days, they never stop. And it's actually ranked one of the top 10 surfing beaches in the world. And I remember seeing so many people surf. I'd always wanted to. I love the water. I was teaching stand up paddleboard later in my life. I just love water sports. So I also noticed that the waves were very big there and I was intimidated. So I'm like doing yoga every day and I'm watching the sets come in every day. I'm getting to know what they call Mukai, which is the ocean god, right? And I'm talking to the ocean and I'm just like, hook me up. Like, I want to surf you when I'm ready. And so it was like 30 days later, I ended up getting on a board. I ended up falling in love with it. I got like this long board and I was getting up, thanks to yoga, because we do a lot of that in chaturangas, right? You're almost in a pop up. Sometimes I'll blend that together when I teach yoga too. It's so much fun, especially there. But I was getting up and I was riding the wash. And oh my gosh, talk about it's like yoga times 500. Afterwards, you're so hungry and so mellow, and you feel again that connection to spirit. It's big because the mind is quiet. It's so quiet because your body is so tired. And same thing with like rock climbing or anything that's you've got to be present so you don't fall. It's the same thing with surfing. And then when you fall, like the water is gracious. It is, unless you wipe out, but you just got to be careful. You don't go out when you're tired. So falling in love with that as a part of my process of finding, my business model that I created, it was following the things that I truly loved and believed in. And man, when you find those things, and they're often things that you're already gifted in, it's just enhanced when you find that thing to complement it. It's like, you just know. And I've been very fortunate to find a few things like that in my lifetime: yoga, surfing, teaching, right, writing, singing, traveling. And I just kept praying and meditating on how to use these gifts and desires. I'd be like, show me. And that led into me just doing that as a living. And I've read articles. I remember reading a lot of articles at the time about how that was such a great way to go. I didn't want to be, 50 in a career that I was not inspired in. I see how tired people look when I'm out there. I have conversations about career and purpose-led careers every day when I go out. People want that. They want change if they're not doing that already. And I want to be an inspiration for that worldwide, like Pitbull, right?
Yeah, surfing I feel is definitely very meditative. I think there's a misconception there. People think it's about catching waves all the time, and I live in San Diego, so every day when I'm walking on the beach, I see people just vibing out there.
Yeah, California. I've lived in California before. San Diego, right? Coronado. That water is cold. You need like a long, nice, thick suit. And I bet people who are doing that in even colder climates are laughing at me, but that's how I felt. And I can't wait to go back and surf it with the long suit. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm curious, with your work with CBD as well, how you integrate that and cannabis into both surfing and yoga, and
Oh,
how often.
it's interesting. I am just thinking about like my surfing experiences. I've never smoked cannabis when surfing. I like to be like all full alert mode, right? Like in the morning, I'm out there at 6 a.m. And these are tools like CBD, cannabis, surfing, yoga. These are tools to get centered, right? To release stress, and it's a healthy way. So I've just been open to teaching about and learning about holistic remedies, acupuncture, love acupuncture, chiropractic work, everything like that is something that I just support in my career. So I hope that answered their tools,
Hmm.
right?
And what's the best way to integrate those tools, in your opinion?
I think it's more of like, so these are my tools. I think that you have probably a similar but different set of tools in your wheelhouse. And the way you integrate it is doing it. So you schedule it into your calendar and you do what your body is asking of you that day. And it might take about a month if you're not regularly doing mindfulness or exercise. It takes about 30 days for your brain to start to wire in a way where it doesn't feel like such a push. But after you do that, you'll notice such a contrast. You get to schedule in time for yourself on a weekly basis and commit to that. And if you need an accountability person, get a friend. But I found that I like doing things on my own when I go work out. I like to hang out with people too when I work out, but it's mostly this is about me getting in touch with me. And it's a way to just like be in the moment. So whatever way you like to do that regular basis, and then do it multiple times a day. it doesn't need to be, an hour and a half practice. What I've learned is if I do 5 minutes of yoga and then 5 minutes of meditation in the morning, and then I do that later in the afternoon, then later in the evening, that's all I need. You might need something different, and it shifts. Bio-individuality is something that I teach in integrative lifestyle nutrition coaching, but bio-individuality is like on a daily basis, your needs change. And so you meet your body and your mind where they're at. And I've learned that if I'm tired, I do restorative yoga. And if I'm not, I do box jumps and kettlebell routines and power yoga. So meeting yourself in every day and giving yourself what you need and really listening. And you have to slow down to do that in general.
Beautifully put. What's been inspiring you recently? What is your current mission in the plant medicine space, and what are you most excited about coming up?
Sure. So I think about the mastermind group out of California that I am a part of. And innercircle.biz has been the biggest blessing over the last couple years, in conjunction with my children, of course, and all the things that I love. Inner Circle is like surfing to me. And to be a part of a mastermind group that is inspiring positive change in the world is just the next level of where I need to be at in my mission. I only work with mission-based businesses, and this one in particular is plant medicine and alternative, anything supporting all of the change that we want to see in the world. And at least I can speak for myself. And it's a group of leaders that are on different missions in the executive level suite that come together and they share in a mastermind what's working for them. It helps to connect people, and together we are much more powerful than just one. I mean, I have seen so many lives transform through this group, and to be able to be a part of that is just incredible. I love plant medicine. I love plant medicine, and I love the conscious use of it. And any, medical person or executive that's behind that mission is somebody that I can get behind, and I get that in Inner Circle.
Beautiful. Alana, where can people follow you? When is your next, surf retreat, and how can people tune in to your yoga practices?
Sure, and I'll leave you the list of my ads for social media in the description. So check out the description below. I think it's below, right? Uh, and you can find me. I'm the Freedom Yogi on Instagram, just Freedom Yogi, and then there's variations of that on every single platform that you can think of, Facebook, TikTok. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can go to the links again that are below. You can email me at Alana Victoria and S and M. So it's Alana Victoria SM at gmail.com. And we can talk about Inner Circle. We can talk about integrative leadership training, which is for executives, that comprises all those Eastern modalities, and it helps you get to that next level in your mind, body, and business, right? And then events and social workshops are available as well. So email me, visit alanaeventsandsocial.com, and there's links in there where you can get in touch with me as well. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for the time today.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.